please like and subscribe? A pain in the neck. Devin stopped dead in his tracks and nonchalantly leaned against the outer club wall. He had just spent the evening dancing and drinking with fellow partygoers of the hot new club, Ruby Night. It was very red-themed, and while Devin was a vampire, he purely enjoyed the color red for its own sake, and not because it was associated with the color of blood. He noticed the young man, who had been eyeing him most of the evening, step around the end of the alleyway. Devin could tell the difference between lust and hate. The guy was definitely hungry for vengeance, not passion. Devin had a reputation, to say the least. But he didn't recall hooking up with the kid. Well, Devin was guessing the guy was 18 to 20. Devin, being mid-20s, preferred people closer to his age, so the question begged why the guy had such a need to assault him. Connor, after seeing the alleyway was clear, rushed in, pulling out a wooden stake. Devin laughed out loud. He was laughing so hard that he fell to the ground. Connor slowed his charge and was now standing just a couple feet away, the stake resting loosely in his grip. "What's so funny?" he snapped. Devin just pointed at the wooden stake. "I could kill you with this," Connor said. Devin shook his head. "Yeah, obviously. Newsflash, kid, ramming a larger piece of wood into anyone's chest will probably kill them." "Then why are you laughing?" Connor demanded. "Because, kid," Devin said as he stood back up and brushed off his pants, "I think you're actually the first wannabe slayer I've ever met." "Well," Connor said after a moment of hesitation, "I'll be the last one you meet if you don't tell me where my brother is." That got Devin's attention. "Okay, I'll bite." He couldn't help but to smirk at his own joke. "Who's your brother?" Joshua Gaynor." Recognition lit up Devin's face at the mention of the name. Josh is missing? Devin remembered meeting the guy at Starlight Coffee last week, but it wasn't a date. Joshua had needed some intel about an illegal fighting club. Noticing the recollection occurring on Devin's face, Connor took that as an admission of guilt and brought the wooden stake up, ready to strike. "Where is he?" Connor demanded. Devin, not wanting to escalate or trigger the guy any more than he already was, put his hands up in a warning gesture. "Kid." "My name's Connor." Devin nodded. "Connor, I didn't make your brother disappear. We went on one coffee date and then he ghosted. The date part was a lie, but he didn't know this Connor kid from Adam. Better to not give him any extra information." Connor paused for a moment. "I don't believe you, vampire," he added with a sneer. "So there are a lot of supernatural creatures in the world. What does me being a vampire have to do with anything?" argued Devin. "You're a soulless, evil monster," Connor responded, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Ow, dude, you sound like my ex." Devin grabbed his chest in mock hurt, who, as I later found out, was a diagnosed narcissist. Connor just offered a bewildering stare. Devin shook his head. "Look," he gestured at Connor's hair, "you are clearly trying to be a cute, blonde slayer boss babe, but this is the real world. Vampirism is like lycanthropy. It's a virus that mutates the human body." "I'm a paladin initiate. I know what you are," Connor responded. Devin nodded. "Good, so you already know I'm not undead. I'm just anemic, burn easy in the sun, and have superhuman strength and speed." "But you feed on people," argued Connor. "Do you eat steak?" Devin asked. "That's not the same thing," Connor countered. "You're right. When I drink blood from my victims," Devin made air quotes around victims, "I ask for permission first. I'm guessing you didn't get Bessie's permission first." Connor shook his head. "Look, I don't care. I want my brother. You took him." Devin gave him a look that screamed frustrated. "Look, how about this? I help you find your brother, and you stop acting like you're the chosen one, okay?" Connor thought for a moment. It occurred to him that even if he did kill Devin, he would still have no idea how to find his brother. Like it or not, this monster was his best chance. Connor nodded, put away his steak, and followed. "Why are we standing outside a psychic shop?" asked Connor. Devin held open the door, gesturing for Connor to enter. "First, it's a Wiccan shop. Second, because I'm your only lead and since I don't know where your brother is. We need to utilize outside resources." Not knowing where Connor's brother was technically not a full lie. Plus, he could use this witch's help to determine if Connor was actually Joshua's brother. But don't you have a psychic link established with anyone you feed on? Connor asked as he entered into the shop. Devin had to resist the urge to scream. This kid had seriously watched way too many vampire movies. What were they teaching these initiates at the Divine Order? Do you have a psychic link with everything you've digested? Asked Devin. A look of displeasure crossed Connor's face. What? No. Why would I? That's my point. I wouldn't either, even if I had fed on your brother, which I didn't for the up-10th time, said Devin. The shop itself was an oddity of items. Devin wafted his hand as a hue of smoke and incense filled the store. He dodged a table holding various crystals, ignored the bookshelf of spells, herbalism, and witchcraft, and leaned against the counter, admiring some tarot cards, as he rung a bell to announce his presence. Connor stood back by the crystal table. A middle-aged woman came out from a back room. Connor was surprised she didn't dress in a more ostentatious way, instead was wearing a simple blue blouse and jeans, her jewelry plain and her makeup giving that natural look. Hilda Hillsborough took one look at Devin and folded her arms. What do you want? Devin smiled. Good to see you again too, Hilda. He absently gestured to Connor behind him. He's lost his brother and needs help tracking him down. Have you tried microchipping? Does wonders for many pet owners, Hilda said, her tone unchanged. He's a human brother, not a pet, said Connor. You'll have to excuse Hilda. She had a bad breakup. She tends to hold the opinion most men are dogs. Were you the said ex? Asked Connor. Hilda laughed at that. Hell no. I admit I need to work on my taste in men, but not even I'm that desperate. Hey, cried Devin, I'm not that bad. Hilda shook her head, before focusing her attention on Connor. She held out her hand and gestured for him to approach. Connor was hesitant, but figured he had nothing to lose, so he approached cautiously and placed his hand in Hilda's grasp. Not one to have a flair for the dramatics, Hilda simply focused her gift on Connor before a slight gasp escaped her lips. What? He asked. Your brother is alive, yes, but his lifeline will be cut short if you don't intervene, Hilda said. Where is he? How do I find him? Turning on Devin. What did you do to him? Nothing, snapped Devin. He was trying to keep calm, but was getting tired of the accusations. He brought out his phone, typed Hilda's regular service fee into his FundMe app. Her phone under her counter vibrated. She retrieved it, noted the transaction notification, and offered Devin a curt nod of approval. Hilda then took a laminated tourist map of the city out of a nearby drawer. Your hand again, please, she asked Connor. He did so with less hesitation. Hilda then drew a clean lancet from a side drawer behind the counter. Do you willingly give a drop of your blood? She asked Connor. He nodded. After pricking his finger, Hilda allowed a few drops to fall on the laminated map. The drops coalesced into a single drop and found its way over to the Dragon's Den of Desire. Your brother is there, said Hilda with pure certainty in her tone. What's the Dragon's Den? Asked Connor as he wrapped a bandage around his finger that Hilda had just provided. Trouble, said Devin, big trouble. Devin had been fully aware Joshua was here, but the fact Hilda had been able to use blood magic to link Connor to Joshua had at least cleared up the question of family heritage. The Dragon's Den of Desire was actually owned, ran, and managed by an actual dragon, Vanessa Rich. Yeah, she chose her surname, and it was a gross understatement to her actual wealth. She approached Devin with a smile that was faker than her human glamour. Air kissed both his cheeks and gestured for him and Connor to take a seat. The three of them were in her personal office. A true dragon's den. Devin, dear one, how's your uncle? I heard about that unfortunate mess with the boogeyman. I dare say a good portion of the supernatural community has. Devin returned her enigmatic smile. My uncle bounced back easily. Thankfully, no one was killed, so while a few supers may have heard a thing or two through the grapevine, for the most part, it's old news. Wonderful, Vanessa said. So tell me, what brings you to my humble establishment? Connor couldn't help but snort. The place was incredibly styled. There was no question. It only hosted the most financially well-established clients. Vanessa nodded towards Connor. Tell me, are you looking for work? While her smile remained unmoved, Connor noticed a hunger in her eyes that she wasn't bothering to hide. "Actually, we were looking for a new employee," said Devin, "the young man's brother, Joshua Gaynor." Vanessa's interest in Connor piqued at the mention of his brother's name. Yes, it has only been a week, but he's already established quite a reputation. He's very popular." It was clear Vanessa readily assumed Connor would also provide similar results. "I want him back," said Connor. Vanessa laughed, a genuine throaty laugh. Her glamour slipped and her more draconian vocals bellowed outward before she regained her composure. "My dear boy, Joshua is her of his own volition," turning her attention to Devin. "Imagine having entertainers here that felt trapped. No, free will or nothing." "So I can speak with him?" asked Connor. "But of course," Vanessa pulled up a work schedule screen on her computer. A genuine smile touched her lips. "He just finished his shift. I'm sure you can catch him down in the bar." She turned to the vampire. "Devin is more than familiar with my establishment, as both a customer and entertainer." "Thank you, Vanessa. I'll be sure to send my uncle your regards." Vanessa nodded. "Please do and enjoy your time here." As the two of them made their way through the main floor, Connor noted the handful of slot machines lined against one wall, an oak bar against the other, various tables and chairs set up throughout, with a handful of waiters and waitresses. Various savory aromas intermingled and wafted through the air. To anyone, it would just appear to be a fine eating establishment. "I don't get it," said Connor. "Get what?" asked Devin. "Why my brother would decide to work at a brothel." "And that is why it's called the Dragon's Den of Desire," said Devin as they made their way to a side door off the main floor. "What do you mean?" asked Connor. "Better I show you," said Devin as he unlocked the door and gestured for Connor to enter first. Connor eyed Devin questioningly and was tempted to go for his steak. But if the vampire had wanted to kill him, he had multiple chances to do so prior. He warily stepped through the door. What had appeared to lead to a lavish hallway instead rippled as Connor stepped through the illusion and found himself standing at the top of a large arena. A large number of men and women were screaming and cheering in the stands as they looked down to a cage match between a Wendigo and a werewolf. The Wendigo was winning. Devin stepped up beside him. "The Dragon's Den of Desire isn't a brothel, it's an illegal fight club." Connor could only nod as the Wendigo struck the werewolf through the chest and ripped out its heart with a sickening tear. Then, after bellowing out a roar of victory, hungrily devoured it, while the werewolf shifted back to the form of a man. Well, a dead one. More cheers and jeers erupted around them. "Follow me," said Devin and motioned with his hand in case Connor couldn't hear him. The cacophony of sound was quite deafening. It was a wonder anyone could hear themselves think. Connor followed, trying to keep himself aware of both Devin and his surroundings. They had made it to the ground level when Devin grabbed Connor's hand and pulled him towards a locker entrance. Once inside, Devin released his hold. Connor gave him a look. "This isn't the bar." "Sorry for the manhandle. Sometimes the crowds can get restless and rush the cage." "Didn't want to get separated," answered Devin. "We get through to the private bar through the locker rooms." The men's locker room was large and clean. They headed straight through a row of locker banks, passing a handful of various supernatural creatures and a couple more humanoid ones, all of them in various states of dress. Running showers could be heard, and a constant steam could be seen throughout the room. Not enough to interfere with one's vision, but the moisture was prevalent in the air. Joshua, wrapped in a towel, stepped out of the shower area and stopped short when he made out Devin, and more importantly, his little brother. "Connor, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here? What are you doing here?" Connor demanded. "I'm on assignment," Joshua responded. "Oh, did I forget to mention that?" said Devin. "You knew?" asked Connor. "He's my contact. Of course he knew." Joshua turned to Devin. "You did tell him you were my contact, right?" Devin shrugged. He may have been under the impression our meeting was a date. "Devin," Joshua's tone was annoyed. "Hey, it's not my fault. He tried to stake me," Devin said defensively. "Connor," snapped Joshua. I thought he vamp charmed you and ate you, Connor argued. First off, vamp charming isn't a thing, and second, why would you threaten to kill him if he had information about me? Joshua asked as he made his way over to his locker. I was trying to intimidate the information out of him, said Connor. It did technically work. I did eventually bring him to you, said Devin. Wait, said Connor, an informant. Does that mean you knew he was here this whole time? Obviously, said Devin. So why did you take me to that psychic? Again, Wiccan, and because I wanted to mess with you and make sure you were actually related to Joshua, said Devin. Connor, recalling the witch's warning, said, Joshua, we need to go. The witch said, you're going to die. Devin laughed. Relax, she tells almost everyone that line. Then after a moment of consideration, though, with your line of work, Joshua, it may be more accurate than we think. Joshua, who was now dressed, made his way back over. Regardless, you two need to go, even if I am about to die. Why is that? Asked Connor. Because, as I already said, I'm on assignment. Clearly it's not a secret one. You don't have an alias, and the fact you can talk openly about it, said Connor. Miss Rich reached out to the Divine Order. She had some concerns regarding the fights. Joshua held up his hand. I can't go into details, but just know I have everything under control. All the lights shut off in the locker room immediately. A full blackout. Followed by a shot, a brief flash of light, a loud grunt as someone hit the floor, and various footsteps as everyone stampeded away from the gunfire. No more than 20 seconds passed before the lights kicked back on. Devin, Connor, and Joshua stared down the vacant locker banks to see a man of around 30 years. The only oddity about him was a foxtail protruding from his lower back. Where fox? Asked Connor as the three of them approached. Worse, said Devin after taking a deep inhale of the creature's blood now pooling around its body. Kitsune. Why? Asked Joshua. I believe that's what you're here to find out, mister. I have everything under control, said Devin. Not helping, muttered Joshua. I think we've already established he's terrible at helping, said Connor. Connor, Joshua said with an exasperated tone. No, said Devin, the kid has a point.